Hello, this is Juveria, and today we have with us the chairman of the University Grants Commission. As things crawl back to normalcy after the COVID 19 pandemic, a fresh batch of students is set to start their undergraduate education. After combating the upheaval brought upon by the pandemic, this batch steps into college amidst a host of fresh regulations instituted this year by the UGC, all in a bid to implement the vision of the National Education Policy 2020. Today at EdexLive, we shall discuss with Professor Jagadesh Kumar some of these new measures introduced and how they will impact these students as they begin their higher education careers. Thanks a lot for joining us for this exclusive interview, sir.
The very first question that I have is something that was announced quite recently, actually, with regards to the National Digital University. The
Mhm.
launch is due soon, is what we have heard. So, if you
Mm.
could please throw some light on how the university will actually function and if it will really expand the reach of education in the country.
Beginning of the academic session is always an exciting time
Yeah.
with students because they will be coming to the new educational institutions, make new circle of friends, meet new teachers, and learn new things.
Yes.
All my best wishes to the students who are going to start their academic journey in the beginning, from the beginning of this academic session. And coming to your question on the Indian Digital University concept that we have been working for the last few months. One of the primary objectives of national education policy is to provide high quality education with better access and at affordable cost. And if you look at the university system in our country, um, we have about 1,050 universities. Some of them are highly rated, and some of them are located in rural setup with limited faculty and infrastructure. Therefore, it is not that every student who is getting into the universities is able to access high quality education. So in the process, what happens is there is a clamor to join in few top universities. And there the admission procedure is mostly through elimination rather than selection, because either you have an entrance test now, or earlier it was based on very high scores in the board marks. So in the process, what is happening is a large number of talented students who are aspirational in getting access to high quality education, they are actually not getting that opportunity. And we are, of course, putting every effort to improve the teaching learning processes in the physical universities. But at the same time, we also need to put a parallel effort to make sure that education reaches to the doorsteps of the students who would like to pursue higher education. And with this background in mind, and also since national education policy emphasizes on the introduction of digital technology in education, we have decided that we will establish an Indian digital university. Whether this university will be established as a deemed to be university or it will come through an act of parliament, and how it will come, time will tell because things are being worked out. But what is clear about this Indian Digital University is that it will function as a hub as well as spoke model. So the hub will have a technical team and an administrative team, maybe a vice chancellor and so on. But then as a spokes, you will have a large number of top quality Indian institutions such as IITs, central universities, deemed to be universities, and any other university which is rated as a high quality university will be the spokes of this Indian Digital University. And in due course, we will also be inviting top class international universities and other organizations also to become part of this Indian Digital University. Now, the idea is from the student perspective. If I want to do a degree program, maybe a 3-year program or a 4-year program in a discipline which is in an emerging area, such as financial management or fintech or data science and so on, those disciplines where there is no need for practical experiments or lab experience, all those disciplines will be offered as programs in the Indian Digital University. Now, there are a couple of things that we need to do before this university is launched. We need to look at how the digital content is going to be prepared, and that is part one. And part two, where is this digital content going to be placed on which digital platform? And three, we also need to see what kind of interactive sessions we can include in this digital education. Maybe weekly once or twice in a month, an online live interaction with students who are studying in this Indian Digital University. Therefore, we also require large number of mentors. This could be retired professors, this could be working faculty members, or it could be industry experts. So we will have a large pool of experts who will act as mentors to provide guidance to the students in a live session with the students. And then the fourth one that we need to look at is how are we going to evaluate these students? Because ultimately the value of the degrees will depend on the trust people will have in the assessment and evaluation processes. So here there are 2-3 models that we are working on as a possibility. One is that we will have centers in designated places where the students will go and take this examination in an online format. So what about the placement of these students? This is also an important aspect because many of the students who will be joining in this Indian Digital University, they may be looking for employment. So therefore, we will be bringing the employers also on this platform so that there is a matchmaking. There are students who are passing out and there are employers who are looking for skilled workforce, and there will be a matchmaking and there will be placements for the students. So you can see that the Indian Digital University will connect the dots right from admission to selection of the programs, to assessment and evaluation, to mentoring through experts, to finally job placement of these students.
If we move on to the next question that I had, this was about another announcement that was made recently about the direct benefit transfers for scholarships. If you could lay out exactly what scholars this DBT will impact, and it will finally remove the delays that scholars have regularly complained about in them receiving their scholarships.
Right. The scholarships are the lifeline to the students who are getting the UGC JRF. And it's very important that these scholarships are disbursed on time to the students. There should be almost no paperwork in this process. So in the earlier system, there was a lot of paperwork and the students did not know if their file got stuck somewhere, where it is stuck, why there is a delay. So therefore, what we have done is we have taken the earlier Canara Bank portal and we have introduced several modifications in this portal. So to begin with, we had a discussion with about 40 research scholars from across the country. And we took the feedback, tried to understand the kind of problems they are facing in getting their scholarships delivered to them. And after taking this feedback, we have made a lot of modifications in our scholarship disbursal portal. Now, this portal works in the following way. In the first 2 weeks of a month, the student will initiate the scholarship request, and that will go to the supervisor in online format. Supervisor will approve it, and it will go to the dean in online mode. And from the dean, it will go to the nodal officer. The nodal officer will verify all the documents in online format. And he will also look at what is the scholarship demand, from how many students the demand has come, what is the amount that is required to be paid to the university. So the same exercise is done by all the universities on their portal. And before 15th of every month, each university will send their demand for scholarship to the UGC. UGC will then consolidate all the amounts and then come up with a final figure for that month to be paid as scholarships. So let's say, to take an example, let's say in a given month, the demand is 102 crores. Then UGC will send this demand to MOE, and MOE will release the funds by about 25th of every month. And then this money is transferred to the Canara Bank, and Canara Bank will disburse through DBT mode in the accounts of the students by the first week of the following month. So now the whole process is completely streamlined, and the student, when he logs in on the portal, he or she can see on the portal where the file is moving. And if it is stuck somewhere, using the online portal, the student can send an email to the person who is handling the file so that the file moves forward. And after we implemented it, we waited for 2 months, and we called another 40 students, PhD scholars from across the country, and I myself was part of that meeting, interacted with them, took their feedback, and it was a pleasant surprise that there were absolutely no complaints at all. And the scholarships are being disbursed without any delay across the country.
So moving on, if we talk about, this fresh academic year that's starting, the introduction to this academic year for a lot of students was the start of the CUET and the way it was, used to conduct admissions into universities and colleges this year. A lot of colleges have finished their admissions as well through the CUET. What feedback, if I may ask, have you received from colleges and universities themselves on how the CUET has impacted the admission process? What change has it made in the admission process?
Let me give you a comprehensive answer to this right from CUET itself. Okay. One of the good feedback that we got from the students is that the questions were not very tough as they were expecting. And the other feedback, of course, is in some centers there were glitches, and it was not a thing that should have happened. And NTA and UGC has taken note of it, and we are working on this issue so that next year there will be no glitches. And the other feedback that we have is that now students who otherwise could not have got admission in top universities such as DU are now getting admission in these universities. And they are saying that if the admissions were solely based on only the board marks, they could have never realized their dream of joining in a good university. So this way, the feedback that we are getting is that the admission process has been highly democratized. It is not concentrated on a particular category of students, such as only the top rankers in the board. Now, everybody has an opportunity to try and see if they can get admission in a good university. So that way, I think the introduction of CUET has brought in a kind of level playing ground across the country. And the other feedback that we got is that there is a lot of diversity among the students who are joining in these universities now. It is not limited to only urban areas where people study in certain boards and got very high marks, but geographically there is a wide distribution of the students, and that is good for central universities because these are national level universities, and we want students coming from different parts of the country interact with each other, study for a few years together, and form lifelong bonds so that they can contribute to the growth of our country.
So you've said there's a diversity that has been promoted because of the CUET. Right. Such feedback, can we get it in form of data somewhere going down the line? So that this was, of course, the first year that the CUET was implemented. So if such feedback is seen in form of data somewhere, maybe based on that data, what improvements do you think the NTA and the UGC can make in the implementation of the CUET going forward? Because you have plans to expand it to PG and PhD courses as well. So from the feedback, what are the changes that you would like to introduce in the conduct of the exam starting next year?
Certainly, I think we need to prepare the data on the geographical distribution of the students and how it is positively impacting the student admission. And currently, the university admissions are going on. Let things settle down. UGC will definitely collect the information both from NTA and the individual universities, and we will come up with this data sometime in near future. And as far as what is that we are going to do in future in terms of the CUET, there are two things that we are definitely doing. One, of course, is to work out a timetable for all the examinations that are of importance in the university system. So NTA has formed a committee involving experts from IITs who have extensive experience in conducting JEE and GATE. So they are working on a time plan for all the exams, be it NEET, JEE, CUET, and all those things. And hopefully in another few weeks, we will announce this schedule so that these students will have an idea when these exams are going to be held. That's the first thing that we are going to do. And number two, as I mentioned, that in the current CUET, in some centers, there were definitely some glitches, and we need to plug in those kind of problems. So therefore, we have formed another committee, and this committee is studying how the CUET and other exams are conducted by NTA, and is looking at the center infrastructure that is available across the country. And they will come up with recommendations on how to remove all these kinds of glitches during the course of the examinations, so that students can focus on writing their examinations without being cancelled or postponed. So on both these aspects, NTA is working, and we will soon come up with these recommendations.
So last question on exams, and then we'll go forward into the actual academic year. What also another proposal that has also come forward is the merger of the NEET, the JEE exams, and the CUET. So how viable is such a merger? Is the NTA actually equipped to conduct such an exam, and what impact will such a single exam have on students? If you could quickly summarize that up for us.
Right. Even before I talk about viability of any such one national entrance examination, I would like to assure all the students that sufficient time will be given once we take a decision to conduct this one examination for all the admissions in different disciplines. Even after we announce, we will give at least 2 years' time so that the students who are in 10th class are aware what kind of examination is going to come, and they can prepare accordingly. And the other aspect of the viability of such an exam, we all feel, in fact, after we floated this idea, there were discussions and debates among the stakeholders and universities. There are two sides for any such thing, because some people may think that it's a difficult thing to do, and others think that it's a useful thing to do. So how to strike a balance between these two? And in order to do that, we will definitely look into all aspects of conducting such a national examination. At some time in future, that's going to be a reality. But at this time, it is just an idea to mentally prepare our students in the schools that such an exam is going to come sometime in future. But there's nothing to worry. This examination will not come as a surprise, and you will have ample time to prepare for such an examination once this is announced.
The academic bank of credit is one of the bigger changes that have been introduced. It will be made compulsory for all higher education institutions from this academic year. Apart from credit mobility and flexibility in completing their education for students, what else does the ABC bring to the table? And how crucial is the implementation of the ABC, to the vision of NEP? Like, it has been stressed upon in the NEP. How crucial is the implementation of the ABC to implementing the vision of the NEP?
Right. Let me start with the National Credit Framework, which we have announced recently. We have the school system, we have the higher educational system, and then we have the vocational education or skill education. So what we have done is we have come up with a foundation, which is the National Credit Framework. And on top of this framework, we have 3 verticals. One is the school education. The school education has 4 levels, 0 to 4, as the student pass through the 5-year, 3-year, 3-year, and 4-year periods of education. So they will reach level 4 and they will also accumulate the credits for their education. So in ABC portal, for every child starting from the school level, the credits will be stored. And now when the child wants to move on to the university education, the child will move to level 4.5. And level 4.5 is the first year of the undergraduate program. And then the student will move on up to level 8, which is the PhD level program. Now, we have also defined how many credits have to be earned by a student at every level. For example, if the student is moving from 4.5 to 5, which is 1 year period, the student has to acquire at least minimum of 40 credits. So now, why I'm saying all this is that as the students earn their credits, they will be stored in the academic bank of credits. Now, this has several advantages. One, suppose at the end of first year of my undergraduate program, I want to take a break. Maybe for 6 months, I want to go and work in an organization and come back and join. Now, my credits are there safely put in ABC. And when I come back after my exit and I'm coming for entry, so this is what we call it multi-entry and multi-exit, I can continue with this level where I left because I have the earned credits with me. This is one advantage. And the other advantage is that if I want to move from one discipline to the other discipline, I have certain credits up to first year, BA economics, but I want to move to, in the second year, BA mathematics, let's say. So I can take some prerequisite courses required for second year and store those credits in ABC and continue from second year in my undergraduate program. So the advantage of ABC is that it will provide flexibility and seamless movement from discipline to discipline or from institution to institution. So this is the advantage of ABC. And we have recently made it compulsory for all the online and ODL universities. It's compulsory because these students are geographically distributed and they are not attached to any physical university. Therefore, we are saying that the credits of such students had to be stored mandatorily in ABC. And we are also working with central universities, state universities, and we frequently have meetings with them to motivate them to join on the ABC platform. And currently, we have close to about 600 universities already registered, more than 30 lakh students already registered in ABC. And also, recently, just before the beginning of the academic session, we have written to all the universities to make sure that the first year students who are joining, they are mandatorily registered on the ABC portal. So we are making a lot of efforts. This is a new system. So the universities and colleges also have to get used to it. So we are also trying to create more awareness about the advantages of ABC to them.
Moving on from the ABC, if I could talk about the 4-year undergraduate program, that has been another issue that has been discussed a lot in the last few months. Delhi University is already on board, with this program and has formed 5 cluster colleges to implement it. If you could throw some light on how exactly that works, cluster colleges and the implementation of this program. And also, what are some of the loopholes in the CBCS system, which the FIUP replaces, that the FIUP fixes? Loopholes in the CBCS system that the FIUP fixes. You could, shine some light on that.
Right. The 4-year undergraduate program regulations are almost ready. Soon we will be announcing it. There are also, in anticipation of this 4-year undergraduate program, several universities such as DU, even deemed to be universities, have already admitted students in the 4-year undergraduate program. And once these regulations come, you will also see that the 4-year undergraduate program is also applicable for those students who are already in the 3-year undergraduate program. So let's say somebody is in second year now, they don't have to exit at the end of third year. They can continue up to fourth year if the university is implementing the 4-year undergraduate program. Now, what are the advantages of having a 4-year undergraduate program? First, it will save time to the students. They don't have to do a 3-year undergraduate program and then a 2-year master's degree in order to get employment or go to higher studies. Now, after the 4-year undergraduate program, if they get minimum 75%, they are eligible to directly join in the PhD programs. So this is one of the biggest advantages students will have. And why do we want to do that? Well, if you look at globally, it is well known that younger people are more creative, and as we age, our creativity levels will decline. So by encouraging these younger people to join in the PhD programs, we will be strengthening the research ecosystem in our country. And that's one of the biggest advantages that we have. And the other one is that the 4-year undergraduate program is in compatibility with the international undergraduate programs, because wherever you see, whether it is in North America or Europe and other countries, they do have 4-year undergraduate programs. So it becomes compatible with the global educational standards. And all the other facilities that we have, multi-entry and multi-exit scheme, will be available here in the 4-year undergraduate program. And we are making internship as a mandatory component in the 4-year undergraduate program. They will also have a lot of flexibility in taking, for example, major area and minor area. Let's say I'm a student in economics, but I want to take a minor in physics. Now, what is the advantage? Econophysics is an emerging area where people are using the physics models to solve problems in economics domain. So therefore, you can actually promote interdisciplinary education by providing this opportunity for the students to specialize in certain areas as part of their 4-year undergraduate program. So therefore, you can see that the introduction of the 4-year undergraduate program has a lot of flexibility, and it promotes interdisciplinary education, and it encourages younger people to join the research ecosystem, and it's also compatible globally.
Not just the program itself, there are proposed changes in the syllabus as well when it comes, from the NEP. So, if you could give some examples as to some of these changes and enhancements that have been proposed in the syllabi of some undergraduate courses in line with the NEP.
You see, our universities are autonomous bodies, and our education also has to keep up with the changing times. So therefore, the universities are constantly upgrading their curriculum. So we will definitely leave it to the universities to look at what kind of changes had to be made in the curriculum so that they become relevant to the current times. But at the same time, UGC will also come up with model curriculum for in various disciplines, just as we are already doing. Recently we have announced the model curriculum for cybersecurity, and we have announced it. It doesn't mean that the universities have to adopt word by word the model curriculum that we have given. They can make it slightly different. They can adopt some other new things into that. So therefore, the curriculum revision will happen at 2 levels. One, UGC will continue to give model curriculum in various disciplines, and the universities will also, depending on the local needs, depending on the emerging areas of science, technology that are coming up, they will continue to upgrade their syllabus. And UGC will closely monitor this by having a dialogue with the universities.
So what are some of the principles that these model curriculums will be based on? Like when the changes are introduced from one aspect to the another, what is being kept in mind as these changes are being made? If you could give some examples for that.
You see, one, of course, there will be some courses which are brand new. If I want to introduce courses in machine learning or cybersecurity or artificial intelligence, they are evolving very fast. So therefore, the syllabus may not be written on stone, right? Like the basic physics. Basic physics doesn't change over a large period of time. Maybe every 20 years you change basic physics. So therefore, You will have a set of courses which focus on fundamentals. There may not be much change on that, but you will have emerging areas which are brand new. But then you will also have courses which are in between, which are slowly changing, and they also need to be updated. Now, what will be the focus when we change this curriculum? No, one of the primary objectives of the national education policy is to provide multidisciplinary and also holistic education. In the modern context, when a student does all these things, that certain things the students will learn in the classroom, and certain things the students will learn on their own by accessing other resources, maybe online, maybe other resources. And the students will also learn when they are working as teams on a given problem. They discuss with each other. There's a lot of peer learning that is happening. And the students will also learn through internship, through practical experience by going out of their institutions, right? That is what we see in modern context. That is what is holistic education. And if you go back to Mahabharata, since you are a very young person, I want to tell you, there is a shloka in Mahabharata. And this shloka says that 1/4 of your education comes from your teacher, your mentor. 1/4 of education comes through your own self-effort and critical thinking. And 1/4 of education comes from your peers, your friends. And 1/4 of education comes over a period of time through experience, right? So even in Mahabharata, we were talking about holistic education. And in the modern context also, we are talking about the same thing. So my belief is that any curriculum that we develop should incorporate all these elements as part of their teaching learning processes. And that is the only way we can make our students more creative and innovative. And as you said, more employable they will become if we incorporate all these things in our curriculum. The olden days of having a fixed curriculum and going to the class and writing down on the blackboard, students taking down and mugging up, those days are over. The education inside the classroom, outside the classroom should now be student-centric. The days of teacher-centric teaching, they are over.
It's actually interesting that you mentioned teacher-centric teaching, how those days have changed. You have hinted at a hybrid system of teacher training recently for higher education institutions.
You see, if you look at the profile of the current teachers, they have not come through an environment where these ideas were embedded, right? The ideas that we are discussing, they have come through an old system. So therefore, the teachers have to be trained in two aspects. One is to change their own attitude towards teaching learning processes. How do they become more open-minded in terms of encouraging the students to challenge them in the classroom? Because unless students develop the ability to question the authority could be a teacher, it could be a textbook, it could be a formula, right? The students should develop this authority and the ability to question the authority. And the teachers have to become more open-minded towards that. And also, in terms of the assessment of the students, why should these students be assessed only through an end-term examination? Why not we have continuous evaluation of these students? And also, why should the evaluation always be based on only one mode? For example, writing an exam. Why can't we introduce multiple evaluation components, such as the students may be given a project, the students may be given a topic to make a presentation. So there are various kinds of things that needs to be embedded into our teaching learning processes. They also need to be made technology savvy. When my students are using Facebook to communicate, if I keep away from Facebook, then I'm actually not connecting well with my students. In fact, for every course that I teach at IIT, I create a Facebook group and I'm available to my students 24/7. They keep sending comments and I keep replying to them. You see, this is how you can connect with your students if you're technology savvy. And the other thing is, in future, the teachers should not only be using the digital content prepared by an expert, but they themselves should become experts in preparing this digital content. So therefore, in the usage of technology, they need to be trained, and also in improving the teaching learning processes to make the students the center of teaching learning processes. Their attitudes had to be trained. It's more like psychological training to the teachers. So we have close to about 15 lakh teachers across the country, and we are working on a plan to identify 100 centers across the country. And we are also working on preparing the curriculum for this training. This training could be a 2 weeks training or 3 weeks training. And because it's impossible to bring all these teachers in physical mode and train, we will have in a hybrid mode. Some of these lectures will be in online mode, some of these lectures will be in physical mode. And this process is a continuous process. Just as the students had to remain learners lifelong, the teachers also had to remain learners lifelong. And that's the only way we can make our teaching student-centric.
Understood, sir. Moving on to talk about collaboration with foreign universities. That's also, that was one of the things that made news earlier this year. With the UGC, has now the UGC now allowing Indian universities to collaborate with foreign universities to provide dual, joint, and twinning programs. What are some of the regulations that the UGC is seeking to put in place to ensure that this benefit is extended to all sections of the society?
They can afford to join in any of the universities in the world by paying this tuition fee, heavy tuition fee. And you also have a very small percentage of students who can crack the toughest examinations on earth and join in the best universities. But then the rest of the students who are also highly talented, who are highly aspirational, and our focus should be on these students. So in national education policy, that is why we are talking about affordability as one of the important components. And when we want to internationalize our education, when we bring the foreign universities into our country, or when universities sign MOUs with the foreign universities for twinning, joint, and dual degree program, this is one of our focus areas. And we are trying to emphasize with the stakeholders, the foreign universities and our own universities also, that the education has to be affordable. But however, look at the expenditure that the student may incur if the student has to go for all the 4 years for undergraduate program in a foreign university. That will include two components. One is a heavy tuition fee, and two, a very expensive living costs. Both of them the students will be incurring. But if the foreign university is establishing a campus within India, at least the living costs are not there as much as they would have faced when they went abroad. And two, foreign universities also, they don't fix these tuition fees uniformly across the country. It depends on the country where they are locating. And we have been sensitizing them to follow a kind of reasonable tuition fee to the students. From the family's side, from the student side, when we have twinning, joint, and dual degree programs, for a middle class parent like me or your parents, it becomes very difficult to send our kids for 4 years abroad. But maybe using my savings, I can send my student for a semester or two to a foreign university as part of this twinning program. So this way, this becomes a win-win situation, both for the student and also to the foreign university, because without paying such high costs, I can still experience education in a foreign country and access international quality education. So I see that the internationalization of education will touch a large cross-section of students who otherwise would not have had an opportunity to access international education.
Actually, I'll just combine the last two questions. Autonomy of colleges is something that the NET again has stressed upon extremely. UGC is saying that on-site visits will be, removed so that quality, autonomy, the process is made easier. How does the UGC still ensure that quality is maintained when the on-site visits are removed? And also, just wrapping up, the proposed Higher Education Commission of India is set to come into force. We don't know when, but the proposal is out there. looking at that future, if you could highlight what are some of the greatest achievements of the UGC in the recent past, if you could, throw some light on that.
Well, I would like to say that UGC is a facilitator. Um, Although people perceive it as a regulator, it is a facilitator. We need to create an ecosystem where there is freedom to the institutions to do what they want to do at the same time with accountability. And all our regulations are designed in such a way. The recent regulations that have been coming from UGC, they introduce an element of freedom to the institutions, at the same time, accountability. And that is the only way the higher educational institutions can grow in our country, and we need to respect their autonomy. We should not be micromanaging the affairs of the universities, and they should take charge of the affairs of how the education is conducted in their educational institutions. That is one. And the Higher Education Commission of India, that is proposed in NEP, and both the Ministry of Education and UGC, they are working very seriously on that, because the days of multiple regulators controlling different kinds of education in the country is actually creating a lot of challenges to the stakeholders. They have to run from regulator to regulator, and it introduces a lot of delays and paperwork and all that. So the Higher Education Commission of India will have 4 verticals. One is the regulatory vertical, the other one is the accreditation vertical, and the third one is the granting vertical for funds, and the fourth one is the standard setting vertical. And once these verticals under the umbrella of HECI comes into existence through an act of parliament, I'm sure the higher education in India will progress at a much rapid rate.
Again, sir, thank you so much for your time.